The vast chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Admiral Marcus Trent stepped onto the central platform. Above him, tiered seats rose in concentric rings, filled with representatives of 200 alien species from across the known universe. Their multiple eyes, sensory appendages, and translator devices all focused intently on the lone human. Marcus stood straight-backed in his crisp naval uniform, adorned only with the silver pins of Earth's United Defense Force. Though he appeared small compared to many of the hulking representatives, there was something in his steady gaze that commanded attention. The massive holographic displays hovering throughout the chamber cast an eerie blue glow across his weathered face. "Admiral Trent of Earth," rumbled Grand Arbiter Vox, the imposing 12-foot-tall reptilian who presided over the council. His scales shifted from deep purple to crimson as he spoke, a sign of displeasure among the Drelexians. "You stand before this council as the representative of humanity in a matter of gravest importance." Marcus nodded once, respectfully but without deference. "I understand, Grand Arbiter." 3,000 years ago, Vox continued, his voice echoing throughout the chamber, the Galactic Accords were signed, establishing an armistice between humanity and the assembled species of this council. That armistice has now expired. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates clicked mandibles in anticipation. Others released sense of aggression or fear. Vox raised a clawed hand for silence. The council has deliberated for one full stellar cycle and has reached its decision. He paused dramatically. The armistice will not be renewed. The quarantine of the Sol system is hereby lifted. The chamber erupted. Dozens of species shouted, whistled, or transmitted electromagnetic pulses of approval. Furthermore, Vox continued once the noise subsided, the council officially declares a state of war against humanity. Effective immediately, Marcus remained perfectly still, his expression unchanged. "You have been summoned here not for negotiation," Vox explained, "but as a courtesy, to inform your species of its fate. The combined forces of the Galactic Alliance will converge on your homeworld within 15 of your Earth days." Delegate Jerix of the Marillion Collective rose on 4 spindly legs. "My species has catalogued over 6,000 conquered civilizations," he announced, his translator converting the series of light pulses emanating from his crystalline body. "Your primitive weapons and limited territory make you, perhaps, the least formidable opponent we have faced." More declarations followed. "Your species has been contained to a single star system for 3 millennia while we have expanded across 16 galactic arms. Humans lack even basic telepathic abilities. Earth's defenses would barely withstand a Nolthian mining vessel, let alone our warships." The insults continued for several minutes while Marcus stood motionless. When the chamber finally quieted, he simply asked, "Is that all?" Vox seemed surprised by the calm question. "You have nothing to say in response to the council's decision?" Marcus's lips curved into a subtle smile. "I was simply wondering if you had finished." "I wouldn't want to interrupt." "You find this amusing, human?" hissed Delegate Crixus of the Vespidian Hive, her segmented body quivering with rage. "Actually, yes." Marcus reached into his pocket and retrieved what appeared to be an ordinary coin. "Before I respond formally to your declaration of war, I'd like to show you something." He flipped the coin into the air. As it reached the apex of its arc, it suddenly expanded, transforming into a hovering sphere that projected a holographic display at the center of the chamber. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded Vox as security drones swarmed toward Marcus. "Please, just watch." Marcus gestured to the projection, which showed a map of the galaxy with highlighted points. "These are the locations of human settlements, outposts, and colonies throughout the galaxy." The map zoomed out, revealing not dozens or hundreds but thousands of illuminated points spread across every galactic arm, including deep within the territories claimed by council races. Stunned silence fell over the chamber. "You see," Marcus continued conversationally, "the 3,000-year quarantine wasn't imposed on humanity. It was requested by humanity. We needed time." "This is impossible," sputtered Delegate Jerix. "Our sensors would have detected." "Your sensors detect what we want them to detect," Marcus interrupted. "We've had 3 millennia to study your technology, infiltrate your networks, and establish ourselves throughout the galaxy. What you perceived as our containment was actually our preparation." Grand Arbiter Vox rose to his full height. "Even if what you claim is true, it changes nothing. The council has spoken." "Of course," Marcus nodded respectfully. And humanity has heard. We accept your declaration of war. He paused, his smile widening slightly. We just wanted you to understand why we're laughing. The holographic display shifted to show massive orbital structures around distant stars, advanced fleet formations in nebulae thought to be uninhabited, and weapon platforms concealed within asteroid fields. When your forces arrive at Earth in 15 days, Marcus said softly, you'll find it exactly as you expect. A single, isolated planet with limited defenses. But you'll also find something else. What? Vox demanded. Marcus's eyes glinted with amusement. Us. Everywhere else. As the implication sank in, panic spread through the council chamber. Marcus collected his holographic projector and turned to leave. One last thing, he said, looking back over his shoulder. You might want to check who's currently piloting your ships home. The council erupted into chaos as Marcus exited the chamber. Outside, his aide Lieutenant Reyes waited with a secure communication device. How did it go, sir? She asked. Exactly as expected, Marcus replied, taking the device. Operation Sleeper is a go. While the council descended into pandemonium behind them, Marcus transmitted a single encoded burst signal. Within seconds, across thousands of worlds, human sleeper agents received their activation orders. On the Drelexian homeworld, Professor Janus Foster, who had spent 50 years posing as a xenobiological researcher, shut down the planetary defense grid with a few keystrokes. In the Marillion shipyards, Chief Engineer Raltuk, actually Commander Thomas Weber in perfect biomimetic disguise, initiated system-wide reactor overloads in the newly constructed dreadnoughts. Aboard the Vespidian Royal Hive ship, Counselor Diana Reed, who had advised the Queen for 2 decades, released a specialized pheromone that triggered hibernation in the entire ruling caste. Throughout the galaxy, humanity's carefully placed pieces moved into position, executing a plan 3 millennia in the making. The Grand Arbiter appeared quite upset, Reyes noted as they walked toward their shuttle. Marcus shrugged. Wouldn't you be? They've spent 3,000 years believing they had us trapped, only to discover we've been everywhere all along. What happens now, sir? Now? Marcus glanced at his display as reports flooded in from activated sleeper agents. Now the real negotiations begin. As their shuttle departed the council station, Marcus gazed out at the vast armada of alien warships gathering for the assault on Earth. Little did they know that human operatives had already disabled their navigation systems. When they attempted to plot a course for Sol, they would instead find themselves heading toward an empty region of space where the human fleet waited. You know what the funniest part is? Marcus said quietly. We never wanted war. We just wanted to be treated as equals. But they insisted on seeing us as primitive and weak. And now they'll learn that underestimating humanity was their greatest mistake. The shuttle accelerated to faster than light speed, leaving behind a council that had just realized, too late, that they had declared war on an enemy who had already won. Within the depths of lunar base Olympus, buried beneath the cratered surface of Earth's moon, General Eliza Donovan stood before the assembled leaders of humanity. The bunker's holographic displays showed real-time updates from across the galaxy as Operation Sleeper unfolded. Admiral Trent's message was received 30 minutes ago. Eliza announced to the gathered officials, the Council has officially declared war, exactly as we predicted. President Rivera of the United Earth Government leaned forward. And our response? Already underway, Eliza replied, gesturing to the main display where thousands of green dots pulsed across the galactic map. Sleeper agents activated across all 27 Council territories. Key military installations neutralized. Communication networks compromised. Defensive grids disabled. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For 3,000 years, humanity had maintained the illusion of confinement to the Sol system, all while secretly infiltrating every corner of the galaxy. What about the Phantom Fleet? Asked Defense Minister Jackson. Eliza tapped a command, and the display shifted to show hundreds of massive warships emerging from the dark side of gas giants, from within the coronas of stars, and from dimensional pockets where they had remained hidden for centuries. The fleet is fully operational and awaiting orders, she confirmed. 5,000 vessels, each with capabilities far beyond anything the Council has ever encountered. Rivera nodded gravely. I never thought I'd live to see the day when the Armistice ended. My great-grandmother told stories of the last war when the Council nearly wiped us out. Different times, Eliza said. They caught us unprepared then. We've spent 3 millennia ensuring that would never happen again. The door to the command center slid open, and a young officer rushed in. General! We're receiving reports of Council ships changing course. They're not heading toward Earth as expected. Eliza frowned. Show me. The display shifted again, revealing the Council Armada breaking formation, ships heading in all directions as if in panic. What's happening? Rivera demanded. It seems, Eliza said slowly, that the Council races are turning against each other. On a distant Council world, Ambassador Malik Wilson observed the chaos unfolding with quiet satisfaction. For 20 years, he had served as Earth's official representative to the Galactic Council, the only human diplomat permitted beyond Sol under the terms of the Armistice. His position had been one of apparent subservience, forced to endure countless indignities as the Council races reminded him of humanity's proper place in the galactic order. Now, from his modest quarters in the diplomatic sector, he watched through the window as Council ships exchanged fire in the space above the capital. Ambassador Wilson, his communication device chirped. This is General Donovan. Status report? Operation Discord is proceeding exactly as planned, Malik replied. The data packets our sleeper agents uploaded to the Council's shared networks have done their job. Each species now believes the others are planning to betray them and claim Earth for themselves. Excellent. Eliza's voice held a note of satisfaction. And the Council leadership? In complete disarray. The Grand Arbiter has locked himself in his chambers. The Marillion delegates are attempting to flee the planet. The Vespidians have withdrawn completely. Perfect. Stand by for extraction in 6 hours. The Phantom Fleet will send a stealth shuttle. After ending the communication, Malik poured himself a glass of Earth whiskey, a contraband luxury in Council space, and settled into his chair to watch the fireworks. 3,000 years of planning, and now humanity would reveal its true power without firing a single shot. Meanwhile, in the heart of Marillion space, Dr. Lyra Bennett finished uploading the final algorithm into the central network hub. For decades, she had posed as a Marillion engineer, her body altered through advanced biomimicry to appear crystalline like her hosts. The disguise had been painful, requiring weekly genetic adjustments, but it had granted her access to the most secure systems in the collective. Upload complete, she murmured into her subdermal communicator. All Marillion defense platforms are now running our modified protocols. Acknowledged, came the response from Phantom Fleet Command. What's your status? My cover is still intact. The collective believes the system disruptions are coming from Vespidian hackers. Can you maintain position for another 48 hours? We need those platforms fully under our control when we begin negotiations. Lyra glanced at the medical implant in her wrist, which showed her biomimetic disguise beginning to destabilize at the cellular level. She had perhaps 3 days before her human features would begin to show through the crystalline facade. I can hold, she confirmed, but I'll need immediate extraction and medical support afterward. Understood. Phantom Team Delta is standing by. Just get those platforms online. As Lyra returned to work, the nearby view screen showed Marillion ships deploying toward the Vespidian border. War between the two species was now inevitable, exactly as humanity had planned. In Earth orbit, Admiral Trent docked with Lunar Base Olympus 12 hours after leaving the Council chambers. His shuttle was immediately surrounded by security personnel who escorted him to the war room. Welcome back, Admiral, President Rivera greeted him. Your performance at the Council was masterful. Thank you, Madam President. Marcus removed his uniform jacket, revealing the network of scars across his arms, souvenirs from the enhancement surgeries that had allowed him to survive the hostile atmosphere of the Council station without protection. How is Operation Sleeper progressing? Beyond our most optimistic projections, General Donovan replied, guiding him to the central display. 97% of our agents successfully activated. The Council races are already turning on each other. Their combined fleet has completely dispersed. Marcus studied the display, watching as thousands of Council ships scattered across the galaxy, each rushing back to defend their own territories against perceived threats from their former allies. And our Phantom Fleet? In position and awaiting your command. Marcus nodded slowly. Then it's time for Phase 3. Transmit the message to all Council worlds simultaneously. Eliza hesitated. Are you sure? Once we reveal ourselves fully, there's no going back. That was always the plan, Marcus reminded her. Let them think they've discovered only part of our deception. Let them believe that our sleeper agents and hidden colonies are the extent of our power. And when they learn about the dimensional technology, the fact that we've expanded beyond this galaxy entirely. Marcus smiled thinly. One shock at a time, General. We have 3,000 years of surprises to unveil. No need to show all our cards at once. With a nod from President Rivera, Eliza initiated the broadcast sequence. Across the galaxy on every council world, the communication network suddenly activated simultaneously. The terrified faces of council leaders were replaced by a simple image. The Earth, surrounded by the previously hidden Phantom Fleet, thousands of warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. And beneath this image, a simple message in the common galactic language. The humans accept your declaration of war. We suggest you reconsider. How long do you think it will take them to surrender? Rivera asked quietly. Marcus watched as the first responses began flooding in. Panic from some worlds, desperate offers of alliance from others and from the Grand Arbiter himself, a request for immediate ceasefire negotiations. I believe, Marcus said with satisfaction, they already have. The Grand Council chamber looked markedly different from when Marcus had stood there just 72 hours earlier. Where once 200 alien delegates had shouted for humanity's destruction, now only 7 remained, the leaders of the most powerful council races, stripped of their usual entourages and ceremonial regalia. Grand Arbiter Vox occupied his central position, but his normally imposing stature seemed diminished. His scales had faded to a dull gray, the color of submission among Dralexians. This emergency session of the reduced council is now in order, Vox announced, his voice lacking its former resonance. We are here to discuss terms with... He hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the changed power dynamic. With our human counterparts. Marcus sat across from them, no longer standing in the accused circle but seated at an equal level. Beside him were President Rivera and General Donovan, both experiencing their first direct contact with council leadership. Before we begin formal negotiations, Marcus said calmly, I believe clarity is required. You declared war on humanity under the assumption that we were confined to a single system with limited defenses. That assumption was incorrect. Rivera activated a holographic display showing the current status of the Phantom Fleet, now openly positioned throughout council space, surrounding major worlds and installations. What you're seeing is approximately 30% of our military capacity, she explained. The rest remains elsewhere. Delegate Jarex's crystalline body dimmed noticeably. We have verified your presence throughout our territories. Sleeper agents embedded for centuries. Hidden colonies. Technologies we believed impossible. The question that remains is why? Why maintain this deception for 3,000 years? A fair question, Marcus acknowledged. When we first encountered the Council, humanity was young, reckless. You nearly destroyed us in the last war. The Armistice gave us time to mature, to understand the galaxy better, to develop technologies at our own pace rather than rushing to match yours, and to infiltrate our worlds, added Crixus of the Vespidian hive, her segmented limbs twitching with poorly concealed anger. Yes, Marcus admitted without apology, because the last war taught us that the Council could not be trusted to honor agreements between equals. You viewed us and still view us as primitives. The Armistice wasn't a peace treaty. It was a cage designed to contain us until you decided to finish what you started. No delegate contradicted him. So we adapted, Rivera continued. We accepted your restrictions publicly while expanding in secret. We studied your cultures, your technologies, your weaknesses. And yes, we prepared for the day when you would inevitably decide that humanity had been permitted to exist long enough. Across the chamber, security footage displayed the chaos unfolding throughout council space. Former allies now engaged in border skirmishes, economic systems collapsing as trade routes were severed, civilian populations panicking as rumors spread of human infiltrators among them. You've turned us against each other, Vox observed bitterly. No, Eliza corrected him. We merely revealed the tensions that already existed. Your alliance was always fragile, maintained through mutual interest rather than genuine trust. All we did was provide the catalyst for its dissolution. The delegation from Artaxis, a species of gaseous beings contained within mechanical shells, released a plume of amber vapor, their equivalent of a sigh. What are your terms? Their leader asked, cutting through the diplomatic posturing. You clearly hold the advantage. What does humanity want? Marcus exchanged glances with Rivera and Eliza before responding. First, formal recognition of all human territories, both within Sol and beyond. Second, dissolution of the quarantine restrictions and full integration of humanity into galactic affairs. Third, access to the dimensional archives that you've kept hidden from us. This last demand caused visible shock among the council members. How do you know about the archives? Fox demanded. We've known for over 2,000 years, Marcus replied simply, just as we know about the ancient ones who left them, and about the warnings they contained regarding the void entities approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Complete silence fell over the chamber. This was humanity's true purpose, the reason for their elaborate deception over 3 millennia. Not merely survival or revenge, but preparation for a threat the Council had known about yet concealed from lesser species. The void entities are a myth, Jarix insisted, but his crystalline form flickered with what humans had learned to recognize as deception. No, Rivera said firmly. They're real and they're coming. Your own scientists estimate arrival within the next century. The archives contain defense protocols developed by the Ancient Ones during their war with the entities. Protocols you've been unable to implement because your species lacks certain cognitive patterns necessary for the technology. Patterns that humans possess, Eliza added. It's why the Ancient Ones visited Earth 60,000 years ago, seeding genetic modifications into our ancestors. We weren't supposed to be your enemies. We were designed to be your defenders. The revelation struck the council leaders like a physical blow. For millennia, they had seen humanity as a threat to be contained, never realizing that their very existence had been engineered for a greater purpose. This is absurd, Crixus hissed. Even if the entities exist, how could primitive humans possibly— Show them, Marcus interrupted. Rivera nodded to Eliza, who activated a secure communication channel. Instantly, the chamber's main view screen connected to a location light years away, where the most advanced element of the Phantom Fleet was conducting a live demonstration. The screen showed a massive human vessel, unlike any the Council had ever seen, positioned near the edge of the galaxy. As they watched, the ship activated a device that opened what appeared to be a tear in the fabric of spacetime. Through this dimensional window, a horrifying glimpse of the approaching void entities became visible, writhing, masses of non-Euclidean geometry that seemed to violate the basic laws of physics. The window remained open for just 10 seconds before the human vessel closed it and fired a concentrated beam of energy unlike anything the Council races had ever witnessed. The beam passed through a second, smaller window and struck the distant entities, causing a reaction that rippled through their impossible forms. That, Marcus explained as the demonstration ended, is a prototype based on our limited understanding of the Ancient One's technology. With full access to the archives, we could develop defenses capable of protecting the entire galaxy. Why show us this? Vox asked, his voice barely audible. You could have taken the archives by force. Your agents are everywhere. Because despite everything, we understand something you never did, Rivera replied. The only way to survive what's coming is together. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We want to save it. Even those who tried to destroy us. For the first time in the history of the Council, the delegates found themselves without words. The species that they had dismissed as primitive, confined, and weak had not only infiltrated their civilizations and brought them to the brink of collapse, but had also developed solutions to a threat they themselves had been powerless to address. We need time to consider these revelations, Vox finally said. Take all the time you need, Marcus replied, rising from his seat. But understand this. With or without your cooperation, humanity will access the archives and prepare for the coming war. The only question is whether we face the void as a divided galaxy or a united one. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Delegate Jarix spoke up. 3,000 years ago, we nearly wiped out your species. Why would you still fight to save us? Marcus paused at the chamber entrance. Because that's what humans do. We protect our own, and like it or not, we've decided that includes all of you. With those words, the humans departed, leaving the Council to confront a humbling truth. The species they had laughed at days earlier might be their only hope for survival. The dimensional archives sprawled beneath the surface of Nexus Prime, a supposedly uninhabited world at the galaxy's core. For millennia, the Council had kept this place secret, allowing only their highest-ranking scientists limited access to the vast repository of knowledge left behind by the Ancient Ones. Now, for the first time, humans walked these hallowed halls. Dr. Meera Patel ran her hand along the crystalline walls, which pulsed with soft blue light in response to her touch. Unlike the Council researchers who had spent centuries struggling to interact with the archives, the structures responded eagerly to human neural patterns. "It's exactly as our intelligence suggested," she said to Marcus, who followed close behind with Rivera and a delegation of Earth's top scientists. "The archive is semi-sentient. It recognizes us." "More precisely," added Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, examining readings on his specialized scanner, "it recognizes the genetic modifications the Ancient Ones made to our ancestors. We're keyed into this system at the quantum level." Ahead of them, Grand Arbiter Vox led the procession with visible reluctance. Following humanity's revelation about the void entities, the Council had voted, narrowly, to grant them access to the archives. Vox and representatives from 3 other Council races were present to observe, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. "For 10,000 years," Vox said stiffly, "the Council has safeguarded this knowledge. Our researchers have made significant progress in translating the Ancient Ones' data storage methods." "With respect, Arbiter," Meera replied, "your researchers have barely scratched the surface. The archive isn't meant to be translated, it's meant to be experienced." To demonstrate, she stepped forward into an alcove where a crystalline pedestal rose from the floor. When she placed her palm on its surface, the entire chamber transformed. The walls became transparent, revealing a 3-dimensional projection of the galaxy with pulsing red indicators at its outer edges. "The void breach points," Meera explained as the others stared in amazement. "The Ancient Ones mapped them before they disappeared. Before they were consumed," Marcus corrected quietly. "Let's not sugarcoat what we're facing." The projection shifted, zooming toward one of the red indicators. As it approached, the image resolved to show a horrifying scene. An advanced civilization being systematically unmade as void entities phased into their reality. The process defied conventional physics. Matter didn't merely disintegrate but seemed to be rewritten at the quantum level, transformed into something that no longer belonged to their universe. "Gods preserve us," whispered one of the Council observers, a Tellurian whose skin had blanched from its normal copper tone to ashen gray. "This recording is from approximately 300,000 years ago," Meera continued, reading the data streaming directly into her mind. "The Ancient Ones fought the void for nearly 10 millennia, before developing technologies that could effectively combat them. But they knew they wouldn't survive as a species. So they seeded other worlds with their knowledge," Rivera concluded, "including Earth." "Not just knowledge," Hiroshi interjected, his eyes wide as he absorbed information from another archive node. "They restructured human neurology to make us compatible with their defense systems. We're not just their successors, we're their weapons." The archive chamber pulsed more intensely, responding to the humans' growing understanding. Walls shifted, previously hidden doorways opened, and deeper levels of the facility became accessible. "This facility is far larger than our scans indicated," Vox observed with alarm. "How much of this are you accessing?" "All of it," Meera replied simply. "The archive is awakening fully for the first time since the Ancient Ones departed. It recognizes that the conditions for activation have been met. Humans with the correct genetic markers, and proximity of the void threat." As she spoke, a new projection appeared in the center of the chamber, detailed schematics for technology far beyond anything the Council races had ever developed. Weapons that could disrupt the void entity's dimensional phasing, shields that could protect entire star systems from quantum rewriting, and most importantly, a method for permanently sealing the breach points through which the entities entered this universe. "It would take decades to construct these defenses with current resources," Rivera observed, studying the designs. "Which is why we need the Council's full cooperation," Marcus replied. He turned to Vox. "The Armistice is over. The time for keeping secrets and maintaining artificial boundaries between our species is past. Humanity is prepared to share everything we've developed over the last 3,000 years. Dimensional technology, advanced AI systems, terraforming techniques beyond your current capabilities. In return, we need complete access to Council shipyards, resources, and personnel. Vox's scales shifted through several colors as he processed the implications. You're proposing a complete restructuring of galactic society. Many Council races will resist. They're welcome to resist, Marcus said evenly. After the void consumes them, the rest of us will continue fighting. The harsh statement hung in the air for a moment before Vox nodded slowly. I will take your proposal to the full Council. Recent events have softened much of the opposition to human integration. Good, Rivera said, because we've got roughly 87 years before the first major incursion, and we need to be ready. As the Council delegation withdrew to discuss the proposal, the human scientists continued exploring the archive, unlocking secrets that had lain dormant for millennia. With each passing hour, the facility became more responsive, systems activating and data flowing freely into human minds specially prepared to receive it. It's remarkable, Hiroshi observed as he and Mira cataloged the information. All those years the Council spent trying to force their way into these systems, never realizing that the key was genetic compatibility. Pride, Mira replied. They couldn't accept that the Ancient Ones might have chosen humans as their successors, rather than the more advanced Council races. Across the chamber, Marcus stood with Rivera, watching the proceedings with a mixture of awe and concern. We knew the void was coming, Rivera said quietly, but seeing these records, it's worse than our projections. Yes, Marcus agreed, but now we have what we need. The complete defense protocols, not just the fragments our ancestors managed to pass down. Assuming the Council cooperates, Rivera pointed out. They may have agreed to these talks out of fear, but old prejudices die hard. They'll cooperate, Marcus assured her. Not because they trust us, but because we've arranged things so they have no choice. Rivera raised an eyebrow. Operation Checkmate? Marcus nodded. Already in motion. If the Council refuses our alliance, Phase 4 activates automatically. We take control of their key systems and implement the defense preparations ourselves. A dangerous gamble, Rivera cautioned. Forced cooperation rarely ends well. Better than extinction, Marcus replied grimly. But I don't think it will come to that. The archive is changing things, revealing truths even the most stubborn Council members can't deny. As if in response to his words, the archive suddenly pulsed with blinding intensity. New holograms materialized throughout the chamber, showing what at first appeared to be star maps but gradually resolved into something far more significant. The neural pathways of various sentient species. Human brains were highlighted alongside those of the Ancient Ones with matching patterns emphasized. What is this? Vox demanded as he returned with the rest of the Council delegation. Mira studied the projection, her expression one of dawning comprehension. It's showing species compatibility with the defense protocols. The Ancient Ones didn't choose humans randomly. They selected us because our neural architecture was already similar to theirs. We could be modified to interface with their technology with minimal changes. But there's more, Hiroshi added, pointing to other highlighted species. These neural patterns, they're compatible too, not as naturally as humans, but the potential exists. The delegates leaned forward, searching for their own species among the highlighted ones. Some found their neural structures displayed prominently, while others were absent entirely. This changes everything, whispered a Tellurian delegate. If our species can also interface with the ancient technology, then we work together, Marcus completed the thought. Humans take the lead because we're most compatible, but compatible Council species become equal partners in the defense network. The archive pulsed again, confirming this interpretation. The projected defense protocol shifted, showing how multiple species could participate, each contributing unique abilities to the galactic shield. It was never meant to be us against you, Rivera realized. The Ancient Ones envisioned a multi-species defense force, with each race contributing according to their natural abilities. Vox stared at the projections for a long moment, his scales gradually shifting to deep blue, the color of acceptance among Dralexians. 3,000 years of distrust, he said finally. 3,000 years of believing humans were a primitive threat to be contained. And all this time, Marcus finished, we were meant to fight alongside each other, not against each other. Around them, the archive continued to awaken, systems dormant for hundreds of millennia coming online. 5 years after the opening of the dimensional archives, the galaxy was transformed. What had begun as a declaration of war had evolved into the most significant alliance in known history, the Unified Defense Accord, binding humanity and the Council races in common cause against the approaching void. Admiral Marcus Trent stood on the observation deck of the Defiance, humanity's newest flagship and the first vessel built with full implementation of the Ancient One's technology. Below him, the shipyards orbiting Jupiter swarmed with activity as construction proceeded on dozens of similar vessels. What made the scene truly remarkable were the thousands of alien workers collaborating with humans, each contributing their species' unique abilities to the massive undertaking. Impressive, isn't it? Grand Arbiter Vox remarked as he joined Marcus at the viewport. In the years since their confrontation in the council chamber, the Dralexian leader had become, if not exactly a friend, then at least a respected ally. More than impressive, Marcus replied. 5 years ago, this would have been unimaginable. Indeed, my people were preparing to bombard your world into dust. Now we build ships together. Both leaders fell silent, watching as a team of Marillion engineers used their crystalline appendages to manipulate quantum circuitry, too delicate for human hands. While nearby, Vespidian workers extended their segmented limbs to reach areas inaccessible to other species. The latest simulations are encouraging, Vox said after a moment. The defense network will be operational in 17 years, well before the first major void incursion. And the neural integration program? Proceeding faster than expected, over 30 billion individuals across 14 compatible species have already undergone the modifications. They can now interface directly with the ancient technology. Marcus nodded, satisfied. The neural modifications, once feared by council races as human domination, had proven to be the cornerstone of their alliance. With properly modified neural pathways, selected individuals from compatible species could connect directly to the defense systems, each contributing unique perspectives and abilities to the network. The council session is scheduled for tomorrow, Vox continued. The final vote on dissolving the old structure entirely and formally establishing the Galactic Concordat. Will it pass? Without question. The old divisions are meaningless now. We face extinction together or survive together. There is no middle ground. A chime indicated an incoming transmission. The holographic projector activated to show Dr. Mira Patel, now director of the Dimensional Research Initiative. Admiral, Arbiter, she greeted them. We've completed the integration of the final archive data. You should see this immediately. The projection shifted to display a three-dimensional model of the galaxy, with pulsing indicators along its edges, the breach points where void entities would attempt entry. But now a new pattern emerged, lines of energy connecting these points forming a complex geometric shape. The breach points aren't random, Mira explained. They form a containment pattern. The void isn't just attacking blindly, it's methodically surrounding the galaxy before constricting. Like a predator encircling its prey, Vox observed grimly. Exactly, but this gives us an advantage we didn't have before. By identifying the pattern, we can predict where future breaches will occur and deploy defenses proactively. As they discussed the implications, another figure joined the projection, President Rivera, speaking from Earth. Admiral Arbiter, she acknowledged them. I've reviewed Director Patel's findings. This changes our defensive strategy significantly. Agreed, Marcus replied. Instead of reacting to breaches, we can establish a perimeter. Force the void to fight on our terms. There's something else, Rivera added. The archive has revealed a final protocol, one the Ancient Ones never had the chance to implement. A method not just for containing the void, but potentially eliminating it entirely. This statement silenced everyone. For 5 years they had worked toward containment, believing that victory meant merely holding the void at bay. The possibility of a permanent solution had seemed beyond reach. Show us, Vox demanded. The projection shifted again, displaying complex calculations and energy patterns so advanced that even with neural augmentation, Marcus struggled to comprehend them. The void exists as a quantum-level contradiction to our universe, Mira explained. The Ancient Ones discovered that if precisely calibrated energy patterns are deployed simultaneously at all breach points, the resulting dimensional resonance could collapse the void's connection to our reality permanently. What are the requirements? Marcus asked. Mira hesitated. That's the challenge. It would require perfect synchronization across thousands of light years. Each defense station would need a human council neural pair, connected not just to their local systems but to each other through quantum entanglement. The mental strain would be significant. You mean potentially fatal? Rivera clarified. Yes. The Ancient Ones estimated a 70% mortality rate among participants. That's why they never implemented it. Even as they were being overrun, they couldn't bring themselves to sacrifice that many of their people. A heavy silence fell over the conference. The choice before them was stark. Continue with the containment strategy with its limited casualties but eternal vigilance, or attempt a permanent solution at terrible cost. We need to present this to the full Concordat, Vox finally said. All species must have a voice in this decision. Agreed, Rivera nodded. I'll call an emergency session for immediately after tomorrow's council vote. As the transmission ended, Marcus turned back to the viewport, gazing out at the vast construction efforts below. Humans and aliens working side by side building weapons to fight an enemy most of them had only learned about 5 years ago. What are you thinking, Admiral? Vox asked quietly. I'm thinking about choices, Marcus replied. 5 years ago, the Council chose war with humanity, because you feared what we might become. Now we all face a choice about what kind of future we want, constant defense or painful sacrifice for permanent peace. And which would you choose? Marcus was silent for a long moment. I've commanded soldiers my entire career. I've never ordered anyone to a mission without being willing to undertake it myself. You would volunteer, Vox realized, for the neural link and without hesitation. The question is whether enough others would do the same. The next day, the final session of the old Galactic Council convened. After 3,000 years of ruling the galaxy, the ancient institution dissolved itself by unanimous vote. In its place rose the Galactic Concordat, a new alliance of equals, with humanity fully integrated as founding members. As the historic session concluded, Rivera took the podium to present Mira's discovery and the terrible choice it represented. The chamber fell silent as she outlined both paths forward, the defensive containment strategy already underway, and the newfound possibility of eliminating the void threat entirely at devastating cost. This decision affects all our species, she concluded. It cannot and will not be made unilaterally by any single world or government. We must choose together. What followed was perhaps the most important debate in galactic history. For hours, representatives from hundreds of worlds weighed the options. Some argued passionately for caution, others for bold action. The discussion continued through the night and into the following day. Finally, as exhaustion began to set in, a surprising figure requested the floor. A young Vespidian, one of the neural-compatible individuals who had undergone modification to work with ancient technology. I have interfaced with the defense systems, she began, her translator converting her pheromonal speech into words. I have felt the void's presence at the edges of our reality. It is patient, it is hungry, and it will never stop coming. The chamber fell silent as she continued. Containment means eternal war. Our children and their children and all generations to come will stand guard at the walls we build. Some will fall, the walls will be repaired. The cycle will continue without end. She paused, her compound eyes scanning the assembled delegates. I volunteer for the neural link. If 70% of us must die to end this threat forever, so be it. Better a single generation makes this sacrifice than countless future generations live under the shadow of endless war. Her words broke something loose in the chamber. Across the vast hall, others stood. Humans, Drelexians, Marillians, Tellurians, and more. Each declaring their willingness to risk everything for a permanent solution. Marcus, seated beside Rivera, felt a tightness in his throat as he watched. 5 years ago, these species had been prepared to annihilate each other. Now they volunteered together for what might be a suicide mission. The formal vote, when it came, was overwhelming. The Concordat would pursue the permanent solution. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood on the bridge of the Defiance as it took position near one of the predicted breach points. Across the galaxy, thousands of similar vessels moved into place, each carrying neural-linked volunteers, one human and one council member per ship. Their minds joined not only to each other, but to the entire network, through quantum entanglement. Neural link established, reported the ship's AI. Synchronization at 98% and...
Rising, beside Marcus,
Vox prepared for the link. The Grand Arbiter had insisted on participating personally.